Good morning, everyone. Hello. So I'm Darin Archer. I do work at Intel. I have not gotten to wear a bunny suit yet, though. In fact, they haven't even let me into any of the factories. I'm not sure why. They keep telling me, next visit, next visit. I don't know what I have to do to get in there, but eventually I'll do that. So my role right now, focused on the Internet of Things, is trying to figure out, working with customers such as yourselves, companies that you work for, software companies, hardware companies, and really trying to bring some of these digital experiences that we've gotten really good at doing online, on mobile phones, etc., to everything in the physical realm. Because as marketers, we've seen a pretty massive disruption in our business, in the way we do things, the discipline of marketing, just in the last 10 years. I mean, those of you that watch that Mad Men series and reflect on how it was to how it is today, you know, things are quite a bit different. We've added these digital channels. We have a lot of insight about our customers. But at the same time, some of the old ways of doing things don't work anymore, you know? We can't have just a little jingle. We have to have big content marketing plans, right? Less on positioning and more on having a dialogue with our customers. And I think most of the time that feels like we're just chasing our customers, trying to figure out where they're going next and hopefully catch the same wave that they're on. So this is an opportunity, I think, for us to really shift again and recognize that there is this intersection of technology that is going to bring a lot of additional opportunity to us. Now, I'm definitely a maverick in the marketing space. Mostly because I just like to shake things up a bit, get in trouble at the office. But you know, what really interests me is where technology intersects marketing. I think that's, you know, the most fun area there is. I think that you all probably agree with me or you wouldn't be at this conference. And you know, I'm one of those guys that gets more excited about the Super Bowl commercials than who's playing. I'll admit it. Don't usually even know. And even more excited now that they're starting to engage, you know, my cell phone in the commercials and all these things happening in my house and while we're watching. In the summer, around June timeframe, Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple, that keynote to me is kind of a bigger deal than the State of the Union address. So, you know, that's just kind of where I come from. So let's walk through a little bit of what the opportunity is, but I want to start with kind of where we've come from. You know, the challenge with traditional marketing is it's been really difficult to measure, right? The impact of it. Going back to some of the first media that we might have used with, you know, paper and flyers that might be in a marketplace, some kind of shopping area, to newspaper ads, later radio, television. We really didn't have a clue what was actually happening. And we had this assertion, and I would say arguably we still focus on the assertion that, you know, with enough reach, we'll get it to everyone, right? And the creative ends up being mostly what we focus on. But we know that this has still not gone away, right? We don't know where half the money is going that is winning versus the money that's not winning. And most of you probably are focused on digital campaigns and marketing activities, whether they're on your web properties or mobile apps or an ad on someone else's website. But you've probably once in your career maybe done something else in the physical realm. Maybe you participated in a beautiful event like this. Maybe you've done some outdoor campaign like the one I'm showing here. And sometimes these are not very successful, and you know, this is a great example of just there's no traffic to that at all. Someone sold a great location to a marketer that didn't do their homework. Of course, now we have Google Maps, right? And so hopefully you're using Street View for this in the future. But this is still a real challenge. Now, for us, most of you in here, I've focused a lot on the digital marketing tactics over the years in e-commerce. You know, we have a great deal of insight. But while we've worked hard to figure out how to do it in some of these traditional media, we're still mostly just guessing. You know, we've used surveys. We have, in some cases, we look at sales reports, right? Did a certain campaign in a region or market, did the needle move at all? Then I'll attribute it back to my marketing campaign. You know, who knows what really was happening there? But you know, it's a soft science at best, right? And then, of course, then came the internet. And suddenly we have this tracking capability. How many of you recognize that banner ad there? Just show of hands. A few of you out there. First internet advertisement. First internet advertisement. So this was done by a company This was done by Hotwired, which was the online team for Wired magazine. If you notice, there's no logos there, there's no brands. It looks a little empty. It's kind of like, what happened? Well, that was intended to be for AT&T. They didn't quite convince AT&T that this was worthwhile yet, so the team decided to do it anyways. They put it up, and it just pointed to a directory. That's all it went to, and it had 40% click-through. 40%. Could you imagine having that today on anything? You would basically get the biggest bonus of your life, and then you would just go to the beach. Walk off stage, right? Done. 40% click-through. But it changed everything. I would argue this is where it created the new paradigm. It created that expectation that we can have attribution, that we can know what actually happened with our campaign. What was its effect? Did someone engage in it? Who saw it? Things like that. This set up a new expectation for us, and I think an opportunity for marketing to start really rethinking our role and becoming a discipline that can actually measure our results. So what we've accomplished in internet advertising and our web properties and mobile sites is quickly finding its way to traditional media, such as television and print. Since most television today is received through a set-top box, like if you think about your own home, right? Not too many of you probably have your TV connected to rabbit ears anymore. Those set-top boxes have computers in them. They all have internet connections. They also have your profile. They know a lot about you. So some of the cable companies are actually starting to explore and work on things like automated ad insertion based on who you are. They have these kinds of capabilities now. Now, as a marketer, if at some point in your career you were buying media for different campaigns and traditional media, you can kind of argue we've had some level of control in the past. You could buy for a certain time. You could buy for a certain region, geographic, right? You could target certain programs, and that would allow you to get to different demographics, maybe different psychographics. But it's really mostly guessing. Now, the cable company knows who I am and what I'm doing in my house. In fact, if I'm sitting on my couch and I'm surfing the web and I'm researching a trip to Disneyland, and my wife is watching television, which means the Hallmark Channel, so I'm definitely not paying attention. But all of a sudden, in real time, they could actually insert an ad for Disneyland because of what I'm surfing. This is being done today at some of the cable companies in America. In fact, I've caught it a couple times because sometimes it's slow, there's a little glitch. Those of you that do A/B testing, sometimes the testing tools aren't real fast on load, right? Those milliseconds where you see the thing you're not supposed to see. I've caught a couple of these on the television. But these folks, these channels, if you will, are also trying to figure out, how can I make this a more digital experience than just that push messaging. So as we begin to personalize, I would challenge you that we get really excited about some of the data that we have today. And you think about the tests you put together, the campaigns you have, but do you really know who's behind those screens? What these people are, who they are, what they do? So kind of an extreme example here, but there's a lot of information we still don't have, right, to get to that personalized experience. We don't have a whole lot. We have some. It certainly has taught us that if we take advantage of it, we can get different results. We don't have to rely on this static content. The question that you have to ask yourself, though, is, are you ready to do this at a scale that's much broader than your website? Mobile has shaken that up a little bit. It challenged us and made us figure out, gosh, how do we get this web team to also keep track of the mobile properties? And then if you introduced a mobile app with your business, you have yet another digital place that you're managing this. Now start to think about everything in the physical realm having the same capability as your website. Across all the different touch points out there in our lives, in our homes, in buildings, in resorts like this, on the train. And then all of that today is very static, right? Outdoor billboards, some have moved to video or they're just digital screens. We still have a lot of paper, right, posted up. But now imagine all of that having the capability to be personalized, to have A/B testing, things like that. That's what we're going to embark on. So you have to start thinking about how you're going to change your teams to really take over the entire marketing department. Hopefully you're all ready for that. So with this context, the point today is that we have a lot more insight but we can take this a lot further. And some of you have probably dabbled in this a little bit. You heard even some examples of what Telium did for this conference, which I think is pretty novel, pretty exciting. Trying to do some fun things in the partner pavilion, et cetera, with lighting, music. And the thing I like about that is, not everything has to be about an offer, right? They're not trying to cross-sell you on the products you don't have. They're just saying, hey, I'm going to just try to make the environment a little bit more fun. And that creates a better brand experience. But we have this context now of, who's engaged in front of my marketing? What are they doing? Where did they come from? Where have they been? Who are they with? Where might they be heading? In this example, she's got a bicycle. He has a shopping bag. He just maybe came from the grocery store. Did they just meet up? Where did they intersect? Where are they going? Are they together? Or are they just friends and they're going to part ways at some point? The data for this is actually mostly available today. Incredible amounts of insight is already available today with mobile apps, with geolocation, with beacons, things like that, but it's going to increase rapidly over the next couple of years. And as we get more of these digital signals about ourselves, I would argue that settings and scenarios are going to be much more important than channels. Thinking through what the environment is like, what they're trying to do, and what is the scenario is going to be more relevant to the campaign you want to create and the messaging and dialogue that you want to have with your customer. Have you noticed in any of your Wi-Fi agreements that you accept when you come into these kinds of venues that they're starting to add things like you're accepting that they're going to track you and may even make a personalized offer based on your location? Anyone read any of those? If you've been to Las Vegas, there's a major chain of casinos that has a good portion of the entire Las Vegas Strip. They can determine your location down to a few feet, 1 meter. They know everywhere you've been, across all their properties. They know whether you like the blackjack table or the craps table. And they know what wine you had last night. They know what restaurant you had dinner in. They know what your thermostat temperature is in your room. They know what music you listen to. They have all these insights, and if depending on how things are ordered, they may even know, your favorite drink. I've met this group and worked with them and collaborated in a consulting capacity, and I told them, as long as you get it figured out so that my whiskey that I love just is automatically brought to me at that blackjack table, I don't care what you track on me. That sounds fantastic. But this is where we're going. This is the capabilities that are there right now. So this is a real picture from a system. This is not mock-up or make-believe. I won't mention the company. I don't want to be an advertisement up here all day, but there's a lot of these capabilities out there right now. We're starting to bring these technologies into the marketing theme. So this particular one takes what was traditionally a very IT function, managing the Wi-Fi network, focused mostly on making sure there's coverage in all the right areas, that that people are actually being able to connect, things like that, to now going, well, we can triangulate people's location with all these access points. Add some beacons, get even more granular detail, and suddenly we have all this location information. So what gets really interesting is if you start to think about that data that you can collect from that, it's not too dissimilar from the analytics that we have from our website. So you think through site visits, visitors, page views, product views, add to cart events, other events, contact forms filled out, etc., right? Now what if it's enter venue, walked by shop, lingered in front of sign, lingered in front of product, picked up product? That's actually possible now. There's a company out of Seattle that adds cameras to this setup. And yes, this is actually in stores in America right now, as well as in some other places in Japan, Brazil, and the UK. And they can tell what product you picked up. You're in a shoe store. What shoe did you pick up? Think about it. That's like kind of a prod view, right? Did you put it in a basket? Did you carry it away? Add to basket. So the same analytics capabilities from the digital world we're now going to have in the physical world, which hopefully allows us to get to this point where we actually know where our money is going and whether or not it's actually being effective from a marketing spend perspective. So how do we prepare for this? What should you be working on or thinking about, talking to the larger team? I think this audience in particular, what excited me about coming and talking to you was you really grasp this idea of feeds and just, the more data I can get, the better. The more insights I can have about my customer, the more context I have, the more I can make a better engagement with them and hopefully accomplish something that I want them to do and is mutually beneficial to them. So we have to think about how we're going to stitch all these together because there's a lot of capability out there. We have some of this in our life today. This example, the Amazon Kindle, I think this was a great product that was introduced. I was very excited to have a discounted product, to have to look at ads, don't even care. But more recently, I actually bought some ads. My dad self-published a book, nothing big, not going to get famous, although he is very excited that he gets about a $170 check every month. And so I've been kind of helping behind the scenes with a little bit of marketing to try to make it sell, and mostly just so that I can test some of these theories and see how this works. And I was really impressed with the level of context, the information that Amazon gives you to drill in and buy your ads. So I could, if you think about all the information Amazon has on you, I essentially got a filter through that to say, hey, here's who I want to buy my ad for. I created the ad for his book, and then those people that I thought might be most interested in his book saw his ad, just those people. And I was able to buy a very, very small audience, but that was really hyper-targeted, right? Now, the challenge, of course, is this doesn't connect into some of the other ad networks. I can't put a campaign together that covers the Kindle and, the digital sign on the bus outside and something here in this resort. But this is going to get stitched together. These are the capabilities that are coming that are going to allow us to produce some of these more complex campaigns. In fact, I think it's going to happen very quickly. It's probably just a matter of time before Google enables the vending machine manufacturer to have AdSense running on it. Maybe it is that household product like our Nest thermostat. Think about the context that some of these devices have. Right now, my home knows that I'm not there. I have one of those Nest cams. I have it being used as kind of part of a security system. Geofences the house. I'm not there. It turns on. I come home. It turns off. So now that's a piece of context data. Add in some of the other insights that it keeps track of. It probably is listening to the television channels that we're watching and what my music, preferences are. Who knows what? We know that a couple devices do that. Amazon Echo. So this is very close. We're gonna get this, and Google's already kind of alluded to this. Imagine as they start to bring these platforms out. Imagine when you're going to be able to have some of your experiences out there in front of this. And I'm okay with this. I think this is going to fundamentally change the economy. We already have a lot of brands, a lot of product companies trying to switch to subscription services, right? Make it so that I buy in different ways. And I think that what Amazon did with the Kindle could end up being just explosive through everything, So, I think that I'm okay with that. If Tesla says that I can have one of their cars and all I have to do is watch advertisements at a stop sign and that big, giant, beautiful screen, I'll take a Tesla. Give me one of those. Ad-sponsored version, I'm okay with it. Maybe that's to get the discounted version, and maybe to get the free version, I have to also let the entire paint job become a banner advertisement for you all. I'll probably still take it. I don't know how many ads, but we'll see. So everything around us is going to be able to become sponsored. We already have the capability. It's very plausible that the networks are going to start stitching together, and then we're going to be able to put this right into all the tooling that we have today. Now, on a more sober note, I want to challenge all of you as you continue down your paths in your career as leaders, I think, in this space, to keep in mind the trust and privacy components of this. We're talking about incredible insights that right now as marketers we're having fun with, turning lights on, changing music, playlists, and things like that. But there's a lot of information that comes with this that you have to be good stewards of. And I think that we're going to get to a point where brands are going to have a relationship with consumers that'll be more intimate than has ever been conceived. I mean, maybe you think of what was assumed in the 50s and some of the relationships that consumers have with brands, but mostly that was through ignorance, right? But I think we're going to get back to that kind of connection, but even deeper. On the other hand, though, the risk is that if you mess this up, you're probably going to be done. Like, do not pass go. you will be done. Massive brands could be destroyed very quickly. So, a little more sober item, but be thinking about that. As you're collecting all this data, as you're starting to merge different data sources and you have this new context, you may have context about your customers that you haven't even thought about because you haven't had time to do the data mining, because you haven't had time to write that algorithm that uncovered that pattern. So you have to really be really out in front of this and making sure you protect it. Now, that is my daughter. She's 11 months old. We're both tired of buying diapers. And yes, Pampers, you can have her measurements, her weight, and what's going on with her if you just keep those diapers always at my house and the wipes there. Just, make sure that doesn't get out to anyone. So there's a lot of opportunity there for sure. So getting the environment to respond to us, I think, is really the next big thing that we're going to see. And, we've got a great example that hopefully, you've done your profiles and you get to witness some of it here at the conference. There's a lot of companies out there trying to do some of these things. But, as marketers, we get pretty focused on the offer. We get pretty focused on the campaign and the messaging and things. And that's, all well and good. But I think if we go down that path in the physical realm, we could very quickly turn some of these new channels into, the challenges we have with email, right? It could feel very spammy. I mean, my phone, my watch can only buzz so many times before I'm like, okay, H&M, I haven't shopped there for a while. I just have your app. Stop it, right? And, your phone's buzzing, vibrating. And there's some good opportunities here. There's a little proximity example showing the, traditional coupon code kind of experience. But I think we have to shift the paradigm and start to think about how do I make the environment responsive. So this is a real company, real example. Mammoth is a great brand. They make, mountaineering gear, think jackets, snowboard equipment, all that kind of stuff. Very, very fun things. Anything to do with the mountains, as they say. And they worked with one of their partners, MRM McCann, on this new store, this idea of let's make the store more responsive. So this is right off their YouTube video. And so the idea here is you start to bring all this together, but instead of notifying that customer, on their watch or their smartphone, make the environment actually respond to them. So in this case, you've got a geofence around the store. The customer's coming in. They've hit the store. Maybe there's a beacon at the front door. Now they come through. You're looking up their profile. You know who they are. For them, they have a really great social engagement, so they look at, okay, what is this guy pinned on his boards? What maybe does he have in his cart, his wish list, things like that. And then the store, knowing where these products are, can actually kind of say, come hither, come by. Using some just simple techniques like LED lighting. So there's a blue light that is underneath the shelf there. And there's product there that is of interest to him. And that light color, the blue, similar to what you heard Jeff talk about earlier, is his color. So he knows that if he sees the shelf respond that way with his color, it means there's something there of interest to him. So talk about personalization, right? So there's a lot that we can do now in the physical space to bring it to life and have these digital experiences really be driving that. So what seems like a fairly subtle thing, you all know from what would go on behind the scenes to create that, the business rules, the campaign, maybe what you'd have to do to test it to see what actually works, is quite amazing. But these are the tools that we have and the capabilities that we actually have today. I'm not talking about something that's years out. So what makes this possible now? What's changing? Why am I so excited about this? And why do I think it really is in the here and now? Well, we've had this convergence of a number of technologies that have reached an economy of scale that makes all this work, right? As marketers, we don't have the biggest budgets in the world, so you're probably starting to think of some of this and going, where would I possibly get the money for that? But I think it's going to come from a lot of various sources. But the biggest thing is, screens. So right away, just being able to interact with someone in the physical world. Digital signage, digital screens come down massively in cost. In fact, I was working with a team that asked a company, I think it was Barney's, but I can't remember, and they did some research to find out how much those beautiful printed posters that go up in the window displays were. And it turned out that for the paper that was needed to create those large displays in the screen and the ink and to get the quality, the fidelity that a brand like that needed was actually more expensive than digital screens. And I don't mean something like this, I mean something that looks like that, with the computer and everything. So that's where we're at, is now we're actually getting to a point where digital is less than print. And that goes all the way down to electronic shelf labels that can go on a grocery store shelf, etc. The other thing is really this smartphone. Now this is great for a lot of the use cases we've used it for, but what you may not have thought of is you take this shell off it, there's a very small computer inside that's very, very powerful. That can be put into anything. It could be put into one of these speakers, it can be put into that door, that exit sign, it can be put into your chair, maybe a little expensive for all the chairs. But the size now and the economies of scale from us all buying these has made it so that you can use this and this same capability and put it into a lot of other things, thus then giving it the computational capability to call up to your systems, get campaign information, etc. And we have the internet everywhere, ubiquitous wireless, right? I was flying in yesterday on Southwest Airlines, so of course they have to make their fun jokes. I got on this plane. The stewardess announced that it was a vintage plane, which basically was the nicest way she could say that this thing was really old, probably should be going to the graveyard. I was actually wondering if I was going to get to San Diego. It looked like something you could put in a television set. It was sold. Even the seatbelt buckle, I was like, wow, I haven't seen one like this in a long time. But the really funny part was then she went on to say, in a very sincere tone, and I regret to inform you that as this is a vintage plane, you will not have access to Wi-Fi during this flight. And everyone's kind of like, oh no. And she then goes on to say, so you will have to try to remember what you did before you had the internet constantly. Perhaps read a book or find a magazine. Of course, at this point, no one's brought their books, no one has magazines, right? So we're all just getting on this plane and going to count the time for the next couple hours. But wireless is everywhere. We have it outside. You have the cellular towers. You have Wi-Fi at Starbucks that we all use, constantly. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And a lot of this is coming together so that you're going to be able to go from one network to the other and it just be very seamless and not be as difficult. So that has really given us this opportunity to now start to have any of these devices that we give the computer capability to also get back to your data centers, right? Get back to your marketing tools. Get back to tools from companies like Telium, right? And ask, say, hey, I am this, thermostat. What do? I've got a screen. I'm told that I can put an ad here. Here's the home. Here's the person, right? And then you've got some campaign or buying power to be able to put something down in there. And then, the location component, GPS. Would you believe that the GPS chip is now down to about $1? So you can give incredible location information to almost anything at a bill of materials cost that is literally just almost nothing. So these are some of the technologies where, again, the economies of scale from our smartphone, the massive, massive adoption globally, has made it so all these things that go inside have actually gotten to be very, very inexpensive. And then you add in these beacons and things like that and the Wi-Fi networks, and now you can see how all this really comes together quite easily. So with these technologies, of course, we can embed marketing in anything now. And we all are still waiting for our refrigerators to order milk. I know that, so I had to come up with something different here. But the Amazon Dash button, this is a tight example, started making me think about it. And within my role at Intel, we are actually talking to some of the consumer products companies, some of the hardware companies that create consumer electronics and things like washing machines. But yeah, the washing machine, has anyone bought a washing machine, had to replace the washing machine, didn't buy the dryer? Didn't get a set, just needed one or the other. Anyone? A few of you? So now imagine that washing machine comes home with you and essentially is constantly nagging you to buy its brother, the dryer, right? Like you didn't get my brother. You need the dryer. I do the best job if I have my brother here with me. We're a pair, right? So please go get that dryer. I'm not working with that old thing. Everything I do to get your clothes clean, it's going to undo it, right? So now, of course, it's not necessarily going to be artificial intelligence out of the gate. It's going to be those of you in the audience probably creating those witty programmed rules that'll be firing off maybe on the smartphone, maybe a display on the washing machine itself, maybe back to an internet advertisement, maybe even something onto a website in that home for that customer, right? Now, of course, beyond the cross-sells and those things, I hope it also just takes care of replenishment, right? And I don't have to remember to order more dishwashing soap and laundry detergent and all these kinds of things. And then, of course, you know, if it has these capabilities, let's make sure to put it to work and handle service and maintenance all on its own too. But this is going to come out in the next couple years. So right now, some of them we've worked with, like LG and Samsung and others, they already have the ability to do some self-diagnostics. And then using the internet connection on your phone, they can get that back to their servers where they can then try to discern what's going on with your machine. All of them are talking to us and some of our competitors to figure out how to take this forward. And there are actually products that you're going to see start to hit the shelves in just the next 2-3 years. That they're going to have these capabilities. So I think the opportunity is going to be, do they all end up being like the Amazon Kindle and being on this kind of disparate island, or do they start to converge, and how do we get access to that context and maybe involve ourselves in the marketing opportunity there as well? So I think we've been challenged with mobile apps. They kind of shook us up, made us think beyond the desktop browser, and everything happening with social ads are teaching us to be a lot more context driven across all of these screens. And it's going to take time for some of us to come together, but this is not 10 years out, this is not 5 years out. There's a lot that you can do right now, as you'll see demonstrated in this conference, as you start to see in your life. Maybe you're piloting yourself some of this, but to be relevant, I think, in marketing is really the key, the cornerstone now of what we want to accomplish. So I would say we're ready for another pretty crazy ride, so buckle up and enjoy it, because I think that you got a lot of fun things to play with going forward. So thank you very much, and have a good rest of your show.